The last delivery started at 11:47 p.m. The driver never came back. The vehicle was found 3 days later. 40 miles away, the pizza inside was still hot. Physically impossible. The fingerprints belonged to the city's 3 most powerful men. For 20 years, Detroit stayed silent, until the pizza box started talking. On Detroit's east side, along Gratiot Avenue between the abandoned factory buildings, only the sound of wind could be heard on that cold November night. At 11:47 p.m., a red Honda Civic with a Marco's Pizza sign turned onto the dark street. The young man behind the wheel was 22 years old, a college student working the night shift to cover tuition. This was his last delivery of the night. 1 large pepperoni, 1 medium vegetarian, 3 boxes of wings, total $47.82. The address, the old Packard Plant on East Warren Avenue. The person who'd called in the order had given clear instructions. Come to the factory's back entrance, look for the green door, we'll pay cash, tip will be good. The young man had hesitated. The Packard Plant had been abandoned since the 1950s. It was one of Detroit's most dangerous areas. But the promise of a good tip was tempting. Student loans were piling up. Every dollar mattered. He parked his car behind the factory. The engine was still running. He got out, grabbed the pizza boxes, and walked toward the green door. The door was slightly ajar. A dim light seeped through from inside. "Hello?" he called out. "Pizza delivery." No answer. He stepped inside. No one knows what happened after that moment. The young man's mother called the police at 9 a.m. the next morning. Her son hadn't come home. His phone was off. The Marco's Pizza manager was worried too. His employee had vanished after the last delivery. The Detroit Police Department handled it as a routine missing person case. The first 24 hours were critical. Detectives went to the last delivery address. The Packard Plant was empty. No trace of pizza boxes inside. No trace of the young man. But 72 hours later, a strange call came in. A parking lot attendant in Dearborn had reported an abandoned Honda Civic. The license plate matched. Police units immediately reached the location. The vehicle was 40 miles west of the factory. The doors were locked. The inside was strange. The pizza boxes sat in the back seat. They were open. The pizzas were inside them, and they were still hot. A police officer touched the pizza with his gloved hand. Steam rose. The cheese was melted, as if it had come out of the oven 10 minutes ago. "How is this possible?" he whispered. "It's been 72 hours. The forensic team was called in. The vehicle was examined thoroughly. Fingerprints were collected from the pizza boxes. The victim's prints were there, of course. But there were 3 other fingerprints, unknown prints. Police ran the fingerprints through the database. When the results came back, everyone was stunned. First fingerprint belonged to the owner of the city's largest construction company. Second fingerprint belonged to a prominent automotive executive. Third fingerprint belonged to a former deputy mayor. 3 names, 3 powerful men, 3 people among Detroit's most respected figures. But why had they touched the pizza boxes, and what were they doing at the Packard Plant that night? Police called the 3 men in for questioning. All 3 gave the same answer. "I was home that night. I don't know anything. Talk to my lawyer." The case hit a wall. There was no trace of the young man. No body was found. The missing person file was moved to the cold case archives. For 20 years, no one talked about this case. Detroit was silent, but the truth wasn't cold enough to stay buried in a pizza box. David Harrington sat in his dark office in October 2023, his coffee on the desk long gone cold. On his computer screen, the Detroit Police Department's old cold case archives were open. Hundreds of unsolved files, hundreds of forgotten people, hundreds of unanswered questions. One file caught his attention. 2003, missing person, pizza delivery driver. He opened the file. Every line he read furrowed his brow deeper. Hot pizza, 72 hours, powerful men's fingerprints, missing young man, no body. Why was this case closed, he muttered to himself. His phone rang. It was Jake Morrison. David always called the former Detroit cop for cases like these. Jake knew Detroit's streets like the back of his hand. "Jake, I'm sending you something. A case from 2003, pizza delivery, Packard Plant. Do you remember it?" There was silence on the phone. Then Jake's deep voice came through. "I remember. We were told not to touch that case." "Who told you?" "From above. Way above." David frowned. 20 years have passed, Jake. There's no one left above anymore. I'm reopening this case. Are there people I need to talk to in Detroit?" Jake took a deep breath. There are a few people, but they might not want to talk. People who know what happened that night either died or chose to stay silent. Let's make them talk. 2 days later, Jake Morrison waited outside a bar on Detroit's east side. His leather jacket was worn, the wrinkles on his face telling deep Detroit stories. The man across from him was in his 60s, hair completely white, hands trembling. "You know I shouldn't be talking to you, right?" the old man said. 20 years have passed. No one can threaten you anymore," Jake replied. The old man rolled his whiskey glass. "You don't know Detroit, Jake. Some secrets never die. You were there that night, at the Packard Plant. What did you see?" The old man looked around. The bar was nearly empty. Still, he lowered his voice. "There was a meeting that night. An illegal meeting. We did jobs for certain people. You understand? Dirty jobs. That night, 3 big men had come. The construction boss, the automotive executive, the former deputy mayor. They were making a deal. What kind of deal? I didn't know. Our job was just to provide security. We waited outside. Then the pizza car came." Jake leaned forward. "What did the pizza driver see?" The old man shook his head. He saw what he shouldn't have seen. He went inside to drop off the pizzas, but he walked into the meeting room by mistake. Inside there was something. Documents, money, I don't know what, but he saw it. Then chaos broke out. The young man tried to run. We stayed outside. We heard screaming from inside. Then silence. The 3 big men came out. They said, "It's handled." They told us to take the car. "Where did you take the car?" "To Dearborn, to a parking lot." They told us to leave the pizza boxes inside. "To send a message to the police," they said. Jake's voice hardened. "What happened to the young man?" The old man looked away. "I don't know. I didn't want to see. But the next day, I heard they poured concrete in the factory basement. The pizza driver had seen something that night. Something he wasn't supposed to see. 3 powerful men had ended a young man's life. They'd buried the body under concrete. But one question remained unanswered. How had the pizzas stayed hot 72 hours later? David passed the information from Jake to Sam Reeves. Sam requested samples from the Detroit Police Department archives to reanalyze the old forensic evidence. The evidence room was cold and dark. Evidence boxes from 2003 were gathering dust on the shelves. Sam put on latex gloves and carefully removed the pizza boxes. The boxes had been stored in the forensic depot for 20 years. They weren't hot anymore, of course, but Sam wasn't interested in temperature. What she was interested in was the DNA from the fingerprints on the boxes. DNA technology in 2003 wasn't as advanced as it is today. But in 2023, using next-generation sequencing analysis, she could extract complete DNA profiles even from old samples. Sam worked non-stop for 48 hours in her laboratory. She subjected the fingerprints collected from the pizza boxes to DNA analysis. When the results appeared on the screen, she held her breath. 3 fingerprints, 3 DNA profiles, 3 names. First name, the owner of the city's largest construction company. DNA match 100%. Second name, the automotive executive. DNA match 100%. Third name, the former deputy mayor. DNA match 100%. But Sam found something else. A 4th DNA sample emerged from the pizza boxes. A very small sample. A blood stain. On the inside of the box, almost invisible. It was the victim's blood. Sam analyzed the blood sample. Despite being 20 years old, the blood was still testable. The results were shocking. The blood contained high levels of adrenaline, extremely high, fear, panic. In his final moments, the young man had experienced something terrible. But the truly shocking finding was different. A rare chemical substance was detected in the blood sample, an industrial solvent, a substance used only in concrete mixing operations. Sam called David. "David, the blood sample has concrete chemicals in it." Jake's witness was telling the truth. They buried the body under concrete. David's voice was determined. "We need to go to the Packard plant." In November 2023, David, Jake and Sam stood in front of the Packard plant. The building was still abandoned, just as it had been 20 years ago. Walls had collapsed, windows were broken, but the building still stood. Jake turned on his flashlight. "The basement is this way. Follow me." They went inside. Every step creaked on the old wooden floor. The air smelled of moisture and corroded metal. They reached the basement stairs. They descended. The basement was completely dark. Flashlights illuminated old machinery, rusted pipes. Much of the floor had been poured with concrete. Sam pulled out a ground-penetrating radar device. "This device can detect anomalies under concrete. If there's something there, we'll find it." She held the device to the ground and moved it slowly. The screen showed no signal. One more step, still no signal. On the third step, the device beeped. "There's something here," Sam said. David marked the area. "Before we call the police teams, we need to be sure. Sam, can you get permission for excavation?" Sam nodded. "It's an old cold case. New evidence. Detroit PD will cooperate." 2 days later, the forensic excavation team arrived. They began breaking and removing the concrete. They found nothing in the first 30 centimeters, but at 60 centimeters deep, the pickaxe hit something hard. Plastic. A black plastic bag. It was carefully opened. Inside were human remains, bones, decomposed clothing fragments, and a wallet. The driver's license in the wallet belonged to the young man. David knelt at the grave. 20 years. For 20 years, this young man had been forgotten under concrete. His family had waited for answers. Injustice had been buried, but not anymore. The body had been found, but the 3 powerful men were still free. Their lawyers would try to discredit the evidence. They'd say, "It was a meeting 20 years ago. We ordered pizza. We have nothing to do with the driver's disappearance." David knew fingerprints alone wouldn't be enough. They needed more, and that more was hidden in the question of why the pizzas stayed hot. In her laboratory, Sam was re-examining the 2003 police reports. One detail caught her attention. The report stated that there was a thermal bag in the trunk of the car where the pizzas were found. But a thermal bag couldn't maintain heat for 72 hours. It was physically impossible. Sam examined the old evidence photos. There was a photo of the thermal bag. She zoomed in. On the inside of the bag there was a small label. Brand name, HeatKeep Pro. Sam did an internet search. HeatKeep Pro was a product launched in 2002 that used industrial-grade thermal technology, but the company had gone bankrupt in 2005. The product had been discontinued. Sam found the company's old patent documents. The patent details were shocking. HeatKeep Pro used chemical heat generators. Small chemical packets placed inside the bag could generate heat for up to 72 hours when activated. "That's it," Sam exclaimed. "The pizzas weren't actually hot. The thermal bag was generating chemical heat. When the police touched the pizzas, they felt the heat coming from the bag. But this brought a new question. Why? Why would someone want the pizzas to appear hot?" David knew the answer. "To send a message," he said. Jake's witness said it. They left the pizzas to send a message to the police. The hot pizzas were giving the police this message. "We can break the rules, even the laws of physics." "A show of power," Jake added. The 3 men were intimidating the police. They were saying, "We control everything, even time." Sam nodded. "But this incriminates them. They deliberately left the pizzas. This was an attempt to cover up the murder." David smiled. "Exactly. And now we have evidence." David presented the file to the Detroit District Attorney's office. The evidence was clear. 1. Fingerprints and DNA. It was certain that the 3 men had touched the pizza boxes. 2. Blood sample. The victim's blood was found on the pizza box, containing concrete chemicals. 3. Body. Found in the Packard Plant basement, under concrete. 4. Witness testimony. The witness Jake found confirmed they were there that night. 5. Thermal bag. Evidence of deliberate cover-up. The prosecutor reviewed the file. 20-year-old case. Challenging, but the evidence is strong. I can issue arrest warrants. 2 weeks later, the 3 men were arrested. The construction boss was 73 years old. He was no longer a company owner, retired. The automotive executive was 68 years old. He still sat on the board of directors. The former deputy mayor was 70 years old. His political career had long ended. The trial process began. Lawyers said they're elderly. They have health problems. The evidence is from 20 years ago. But the jury looked at the evidence. In March 2024, the verdict was delivered. First-degree murder. All 3 defendants found guilty. In the courtroom, the victim's mother cried. After 20 years, her son's killers had been brought to justice. David answered reporters' questions outside the courthouse. "What does this case teach us? Justice has no statute of limitations. Powerful men are not above the law. And sometimes, the smallest piece of evidence, even a pizza box, can reveal the truth." In his office, as David closed the file, he looked at the young man's photograph. A smiling face, bright eyes, a future full of dreams. All of it had ended with a pizza delivery. "Justice came late," David murmured, "but it came." The pizza box had stayed silent for 20 years, but in the end it spoke, and Detroit was no longer silent. Sometimes, the most ordinary things, a pizza box, a fingerprint, a forgotten thermal bag, reveal the darkest secrets. Power can delay justice, but it can never destroy it. The last delivery started at 11:47 p.m. Justice was delivered 20 years later.